Welcome friends to a quick comparison video between the 2025 Ford Explorer ST line and the 2024 Mazda CX-90 Select that is essentially a base model. And towards the end of this video, I can share with you a resource on how you can save about 9% off the MSRP of 2025 Mazdas, but I have no such resource to share with you regarding new Fords, but we'll get to that later. Right now, let's just talk about the exterior, because that's going to be the most obvious difference between the two vehicles. And I got to give all of the cool points to the Ford Explorer because, of course, you get one in black, white, navy blue, or this gray, people will think you're some kind of a undercover cop. So that's pretty cool. In fact, when I was trying to film some B-roll of the Ford Explorer, there were some individuals in the parking lot. They immediately cleared out when I pulled up in the Explorer, and that is pretty cool in my opinion. But I am also a fan of the Mazda CX-90. I think the front and the rear end of the CX-90 look rather elegant, and I do like that dark blue paint on the CX-90. It's one of Mazda's free color choices, but it still looks amazing in my opinion, especially for this body style. But comment below, let me know your thoughts regarding these two SUVs. Of course, I can never get the two exact trim levels that compete with each other. That's impossible to secure. So really, surprisingly, it's the base model Mazda, which stickers for about $39,000, that competes better in terms of the interior space with the Ford Explorer, like the lower end Fords. So that's why I wanted to make this comparison. Besides, you can always go on the manufacturer's website and you can look at the features on both of the manufacturer websites to see which model and trim is going to suit you the best. Now, regarding wheels, there is a difference. So with the ST line, it's going to be riding on 20-inch wheels at a bare minimum. You can get the base active, which can ride on 18-inch wheels. But on the Mazda, the smallest wheels that you're going to be getting are these 19-inch wheels. Then you just have to jump up to the 21s with the Mazda. All right, so that's a quick look at the exterior. Now let's talk about the engine and the drive. Okay, regarding the engines, the Ford Explorer with the active entry-level trim and the ST line, like what you see here, they're both going to come with the EcoBoost turbo 4-cylinder engine producing 300 horsepower and 310 pounds-feet of torque. Although I believe you do have to put premium fuel in the Explorer to achieve those numbers. Whereas with the Mazda CX-90, the big highlight here, it's going to be with the standard turbo inline-six engine. This produces 280 horsepower and 332 pounds-feet of torque. It does not matter if you put regular or premium fuel in the entry-level CX-90 with the inline-six engine. Okay, you're always going to be producing 280 horses and 332 pounds-feet of torque. Now, when Car and Driver did a test on the Explorer with this engine, these vehicles managed to do 0 to 60 in 6 seconds flat, whereas Car and Driver only did a test with the Turbo S model of the CX-90, which has like 340 horsepower, and that's with premium fuel. That model got 0 to 60 in like 6.3 seconds, something along those lines. So no matter which engine you go with the CX-90, it's going to be slower than this turbo 4-cylinder Explorer. And in the real world, I would say that is kind of true. This Ford Explorer, it really hustles down the road. I am really impressed with this engine. The Mazda, it puts down really good numbers on paper, but in the real world, these engines, especially this entry-level model, it feels a bit sluggish. The Turbo S with the higher engine output, that does compare better with the Ford Explorer in the real world. I would say they feel pretty similar to one another. Regarding character, both engines have plenty of character. I like the way both engines sound, although the Ford, it's a bit overdone in my opinion. It actually introduces a bit of drone and reverberation throughout the cabin when you accelerate, so it's a bit much. It's okay for something like a Ford Bronco, but the Explorer could have been quieter, but overall not too bad. I do appreciate just how fun it is to push the Ford Explorer. It genuinely has character, and it genuinely is a vehicle that just rolls down the road with authority, but I'm still satisfied with the CX-90 and the regular inline-six output. In fact, that is the engine I would go with on the Mazda. I would not bother paying up for the Turbo S models. I would rather get, a well-equipped CX-90 with that same engine. And I would actually avoid the plug-in hybrid system. I'm not a big fan of it. It feels unpolished and unfinished, so I would stay away from the plug-in hybrid. And with the Ford, you have the ability of stepping up to, the EcoBoost V6 with a lot more power, 400 horsepower, 415 pounds-feet of torque with either the Platinum or the full ST. Honestly, for most families, not really necessary. But fuel economy on both of these big three rows, it is truly excellent. Both SUVs, they are rated to get about 28 out on the highway, which is really good. And these vehicles will actually achieve that out on the highway. But in the city, I think the Ford actually does better. So it's like 20 or 21 mpg in the city with the rear wheel drive, and that's exactly what we have here. The CX-90s only come with all-wheel drive as standard, and that's great. But keep in mind the CX-90s are also on a rear-wheel drive platform. But the CX-90 in the city, it kind of struggles. It gets like 17-ish in the city, whereas the Explorer will actually get like 18, 19, even low 20s in the city, at least in my experience. Now, regarding the drive and the handling, I actually appreciate the way both of these SUVs handle, at least around town. It's really good, but I have to give the high-speed performance and stability to the CX-90. I think out on the highway, the CX-90 is the most planted three-row SUV that I have ever experienced. The Explorer, sadly, it actually introduces a bit of nervousness at really high speeds. And that's unfortunate because around town, you have this really confidence-inspiring feel. You really feel like the Explorer is digging into the tarmac. It feels like a nice sturdy product to drive around normal speeds. Then once you get it up to, really high speeds out on the highway, I'm not really a big fan of the sensations I am getting from the Explorer. That being said though, as long as you're not completely flying down the highway, you should be satisfied with the Explorer as long as you keep it under 75 miles per hour, which I'm guessing most families are doing. But with the CX-90, thing just feels incredible at any speed, really. So that's a big plus for the CX-90. Don't get me wrong, the Explorer is not bad either. I also appreciate the way both vehicles handle the everyday turns, as well as your long sweeping corners as well. Both of these SUVs handle that really well. None of the occupants are going to be flipping or flopping all over the place. So both feel planted from that perspective. Refinement is a bit of an interesting story because the Ford Explorer, it's a bit on the noisier side, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. It just communicates with you really well. But the one thing it does not communicate with you is the speed in which you are traveling. It really masks the speed from you. So you can be doing, 10, 15, even 20 miles an hour over the speed limit and not even realize it with the Ford Explorer. That's crazy. I mean, there's not too many quote unquote loud vehicles that end up being, that refined or mask the speed from you. Whereas with the CX-90 and really most other three-row SUVs like, Honda Pilots, Toyota Grand Highlanders, they are going to be much more quieter overall, much more refined. So that is something to keep in mind. When you step up in trim level, you are able to get things like double paned glass on the side of the CX-90. With the Ford Explorer, you actually just naturally get double pane glass being used on the front driver's side windows. All right, but even despite the use of that double pane glass, the Ford Explorer is a bit louder. But once again, I don't really hate that because the vehicle, it's just so much fun to drive. I would say that the Explorer has the most amount of character amongst all of the three-row SUVs from a driving perspective. So despite some of the quote-unquote unrefined characteristics, that just allows the Ford to feel and behave a bit more fun than the other generic SUVs. A lot of people like to say that the Mazda is fun to drive. That's not necessarily true. It's never fun. You just respect and appreciate what it's able to do. Like the high-speed stability, the really good handling around turns. It just gives you a lot of confidence behind the wheel. That's what the CX-90 has to offer, but it's not necessarily fun or full of character per se. Now, regarding the ride quality, I would say that both of these SUVs are set up to be a bit more taut. They don't exactly glide over the bumps, but I have to say the Mazda is a bit softer still. Again, that doesn't mean that the Ford is uncomfortable in any way. You just feel some of these smaller impacts a bit more with the Ford. The Mazda, it is able to mask out more of the bumps and the imperfections, at least the way they have it tuned and set up here. Although, I will bring up one other point with both of these vehicles. With Mazda and Ford, I have noticed a lot of discrepancies between the trim levels. So it's totally possible that a higher trim level Ford could drive, feel, and be a bit more refined than what I'm experiencing here with the ST line. Same thing with the Mazda. I tried a Premium Plus version of the CX-90 with the same engine, the 280 horsepower engine, and I kid you not, nobody has an explanation for this, but it rode better, it went better, it was a bit more quieter and comfortable. It was just better in every single way. Even the steering felt a bit better in the Premium Plus version of the CX-90. Again, no idea what's going on here. The Premium Plus comes with 21-inch wheels as well, so you would think it rides rougher, but it doesn't. So strange, so bizarre. The only other brand that I've noticed this with is with Lexus. A lot of other people have commented regarding this as well. You go up to the luxury trim levels or the F-Sport trim levels, they just end up driving better than the regular Lexus products. Again, nobody has an explanation for it, but that is something that people have noticed. When you go up in trim level with certain manufacturers, you do get a better driving experience. So keep that in the back of your mind if you are thinking about purchasing either one of these products. But what we have here, I am satisfied with both. But just know that right now, both of these vehicles are tuned and calibrated to feel a bit more taut to give you superior handling. Now, both of these vehicles are 3-row SUVs, and I have the 3rd row pushed down on both of these vehicles. The trunk space is really good with the 3rd row down, of course. I would say that the Explorer has a bit more space than the CX-90, but it's pretty close. Once you have the 3rd row up, the space goes down dramatically with both, but once again, I would give the edge to the Explorer. One of the main cons with the CX-90 is it lacks cargo capacity compared to its rivals or its competitors. So there you have it. It's just that with this cut, I mean, it just really, protrudes inside of your cargo capacity. Whereas the Ford Explorer, it's a bit more of a boxy shape, so that kind of helps your cargo. But the main thing with the Ford is the 3rd row is actually useful. I can actually fit in the 3rd row of this product, and I am 5'11". It is pretty much impossible for me to fit inside of the 3rd row of the CX-90, and I would also say that the Nissan Pathfinder is also pretty pathetic when it comes to the 3rd row. I mean, even children will struggle to fit in the 3rd row of the CX-90 and the Pathfinder. Even though it's tight in the 3rd row of this Explorer, I can make it work, and that means that children can easily make it work in the 3rd row of this Explorer. I would say that the Honda Pilot and the Toyota Grand Highlander provide the most amount of 3rd row legroom, okay? And they also offer really good trunk space as well. So regarding packaging, those are like the 2 top tier SUVs in the class, in my opinion. Now, regarding the interior space, I have to give the clear victory to the Mazda CX-90, and you'll see why in a moment. I just love the layout, and I just love the overall quality of the interior space as well, especially when you move up in trim level. But keep in mind, for 2025, the Ford Explorer, it has been refreshed with the exterior and the interior. We have the new updated 13.2-inch infotainment screen, and that's going to be important in a moment. Right now though, what I will be giving points to for the Ford is in regard to the seats, at least compared to the leatherette seats found in the CX-90. Okay, these seats, I find them to be a lot more comfortable. There's actually some stiffness here, and I think that's a good thing for long trips. You're not going to be feeling fatigued, so that's good. Plus this kind of cloth with this leatherette type of finish, it should be rather easy to clean as well. With the ST line, I also appreciate this flat bottom steering wheel as well, rather sporty. The doors are pretty generic, but it does get the job done. Another area where Ford is going to win is in regard to the overall storage space. I just think that they have this figured out a bit better. Overall packaging, places to put your phone, rather large glove box. All of that is a big victory for the Ford. And also this Bang & Olufsen sound system is incredible, sounds really good, and the bass is powerful. So yeah, I would definitely give the points to Ford regarding the B&O sound system, at least when compared to this, non-Bose audio CX-90. The regular audio system is okay, but I'll get to that in a moment. Most of the ST lines that you're going to find, it's going to be around $47,000 to $49,000, depending on if you get the four-wheel drive or not. The way that you see it here, this is the rear-wheel drive model. Four-wheel drive costs like an extra $3,000 for the ST line and about $2,000 for the other 3 trim levels, like the Active, the Platinum, and the ST. I have plenty of second row legroom in pretty much all of these 3-row SUVs. They are all very spacious. In the second row, that's not even remotely an issue. Materials being used in this cabin, not exactly awe-inspiring, doesn't really scream luxury. It's really built for durability. And so far, pretty much all of the Ford interiors that I've been in, they are pretty sturdy. No real creaks or rattles. Others have commented and said that they've had a pretty poor experience with the Ford build quality. I have never noticed that with all of the test vehicles I've gotten, even the high mileage ones. Now we have the all-new Ford Digital Experience infotainment. It's a 13.2-inch infotainment screen. It works good. It's easy to use. You have some popular apps already built in to the infotainment like YouTube, and you even have some like games that you can play. But I just don't like the fact that all of the climate control has been embedded into that touchscreen. Really unfortunate. If anything ever happens to that infotainment screen, you're going to lose access to your climate control. So I want to see separate climate control buttons and switches being implemented underneath the infotainment screen. That is the best thing to do, but you do have a big volume knob, which is nice. The digital gauge cluster is also rather easy to use. Rear seats continues to be rather comfortable. It's like the same type of seating that you're going to find in the front, and once again, easy to clean, pretty comfortable on a long trip. And I already talked about the third row in these vehicles. Let's actually go ahead and let's talk about the Mazda interior space. Okay, so I already mentioned this, the base model Mazda, it's not a direct competitor to the ST line. It's impossible for me to get, competing trim levels at the same time. But regarding the interior space, the base model Select has the quote-unquote worst interior amongst the Mazda CX-90 lineup. You just have like this cloth material being used here along with this hard touch plastic as a trim piece. On the higher trims, you get nicer leather materials and you get like wood finishes here. So we don't have that here, but this lower quality interior space, it matches better with the more simplistic Ford interior. Now with the Ford, you can get like the Platinum models with the leather packages, with the stitching and all that. That's fantastic. But with the Mazda, you can just spend a little under or even a little over $50,000 and get really nice premium and premium plus trim levels with this exact same engine. And that's the best value in the Mazda lineup. I would not get the Turbo S and I would not get the hybrid. Anyway, these seats, these are the entry-level leatherette seats. If you just move up one trim level, you'll get leather seats. And then the higher up you go, you'll get softer Napa leather seats. Those are really comfortable. These leatherette seats, they're okay. They get the job done, but for right now, the seats that you saw in the Ford Explorer were more comfortable than this, okay? I do like this leather-wrapped steering wheel. It's pretty good. Here we don't have any, nice wood finishes. We still have like this plastic trim piece. You get like a smaller 10.25 or 10.5 inch infotainment screen with the Mazda on the entry-level models. Then when you step up, you are able to get, the 12.3 inch infotainment with a full digital gauge cluster. With the Ford, we actually had wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Here with this entry-level CX-90, you actually have to plug in your phone to access the Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto. It's going to be a wired setup. You have to move up in trim level to get the wireless setup. A lot of people not a big fan of the shifter. I have to agree, but you can get used to this. I will say the dial shifter found in the Ford, it's a bit more elegant. But overall, I do like the infotainment system in the Mazda. It's rather easy to use. You just have to mess with this rotary dial, but I think that's perfectly fine. The best attribute about the Mazda interiors, it's going to be this layout, especially with the physical climate control. Absolutely brilliant. Mazda has done it the best. And overall, this layout is just so good. Especially the same layout with the higher trims, with the better materials. Top tier. I would say that's the best interior amongst all of the three-row SUVs. Storage space is pretty much abysmal for a vehicle of this size. You know, the armrest, the phone storage, the glove box, all of it is rather average. Both vehicles, surprisingly, don't have a sunroof. That's interesting. But the ST line, you are able to get a pano sunroof for like $1,600 if you want to pay up for that. Of course, higher trim levels of the CX-90 also come with pano sunroofs. But right here, though, we do have our own separate climate, even in this base entry-level CX-90. So we have the 3-zone climate. Very cool. We don't get heated seats or anything with this entry-level model of the CX-90. That's reserved for the higher trims. Regardless, though, seating comfort in the back, pretty average, but the legroom in the second row is truly excellent. That is never an issue with any of these 3-row SUVs, okay? But as mentioned before, the third row is pathetic. Something else I really appreciate about both of these SUVs, it's going to be all of the useful safety tech features come standard, like your blind spot monitoring and your rear cross traffic alert on both of these SUVs. Although regarding the crash test safety, the CX-90 is one of the safest new cars that you can possibly get. This is a IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus. Don't get me wrong, the new Explorer is also very safe, but it has not won any of the Top Safety Pick awards as of right now. That's mainly because IIHS has gotten very strict with their testing, and random things like, you know, your seatbelt latch and other things, like all these other things contribute, not just the crash test result. So that kind of brought down a lot of manufacturer vehicles, although a lot of these new 3-row SUVs are super safe, including things like the Nissan Pathfinder as well. So I definitely don't have an issue putting a family in either one of these products. All of these new SUVs are super safe. And with that established, let's go ahead and let's conclude this video. Okay, concluding thoughts between the 2025 Ford Explorer and the all-new Mazda CX-90. Well, as you can see, I like both vehicles for very different reasons. I really appreciate the character of the Ford, and I really like the overall refined driving package of the CX-90. Of course, the lack of cargo capacity in the CX-90, that is a con. And of course, with the Ford Explorer, I think they could have made the engine a bit more refined, and I wish that the subtle nervousness I felt at really high speeds would go away, and perhaps it will with higher trim levels, but oh well, I can only report on the model that I have to test. I think both products can serve a family really well, and you can of course go on the manufacturer website to see which trim level is going to serve you the best. If you're going to stick with the 4-cylinder Explorer, I think the ST line is the best way to go, and maybe just add in the 4-wheel drive. But Ford is a bit interesting. You actually get rewarded for spending more money with them. For instance, you can get well-equipped ST and Platinum models with the EcoBoost V6 engine for around $61,000, $62,000. That is actually really good value for money because you're getting a really powerful product, pretty much all of the features. And with the Platinum, you do get a truly luxurious cabin as well with the stitched leather. Mazda is also a great value as long as you skip the Turbo S engine and you stick with like a premium or a premium plus version of the CX-90. You can get that for around $51,000, $52,000. You're getting a super luxurious cabin, still a great inline-six engine, all the features you could ever need, and both products offer pretty good real-world fuel economy for their respective class, especially out on the highway, but I think the city fuel economy is a bit better with the Ford. I also forgot to mention, when you move up in trim level with the Mazda and you get that Bose audio system, that does sound truly excellent, one of the finest audio systems. I did say that the Bang & Olufsen found in the ST line sounds really good as well, but I do think that the Bose is a better all-rounder audio system, if that makes sense. But keep in mind, when you move up to something like the Platinum or the top of the line ST, you are able to get an even more powerful 14-speaker Bang & Olufsen audio system. I have not tried that. That could give the Bose and the Mazda a run for its money. So yeah, it just depends on what kind of budget you're looking at. If you're in the $50,000 price range, then Mazda is going to give you more options compared to the ST line Explorer. But when you're spending $60,000+, the Explorer is going to offer you more power and just as much, if not more, luxuries than the generic three-row vehicles. But there is a final aspect to all of this, and that is the deals in which you can score on these products. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I do have a resource that I can share with you so that you can save about 9% off the MSRP of 2025 Mazda CX-70s and CX-90s. And that is AutoCompanion, who is one of the largest car brokers in the United States. He is primarily located in the Washington, D.C. area, and his partner dealerships are offering about 9.5% off the MSRP on CX-90s, the gas models, and about 10% off the MSRP on the plug-in hybrids. Plus, with Mazda, no matter how you buy it, whether you lease, pay cash, or finance, all buying methods are really good and pretty affordable, especially the lease. The lower trim levels can be had for like $450 a month, and well-equipped Premium Plus models, like what I mentioned, can be had for $550 a month. That is really good for the quality of vehicle that you are getting. And if you qualify for things like Mazda Loyalty, there are additional incentives that can stack on top of AutoCompanion's already amazing dealer discounts. And to access these deals, you can just go to autocompanion.com. Once again, he's primarily located in Washington, D.C., but he is able to ship nationwide. Shipping is something you have to pay extra for if you need that service, but also AutoCompanion does charge a broker fee to access his deals. He did say that if you fill out an inquiry form on his website and you mention my channel, Meyn Motor Group, he did say that he would take some money off of his broker fee, and I really appreciate him doing that for my audience. Sadly, AutoCompanion does not carry any Ford products, but in the description box, I can share with you a free leasing calculator provided to you by AutoCompanion. This is a very powerful tool because it shows you the interest rate of a lease, the residual values, and the incentives that you can get in your local zip code. Incentives stack on top of the dealer discount, and if you're interested in a Ford, there are a bunch of different incentives. Use that calculator to see what exactly you can qualify for. But I will caution you, pretty much all of the different buying methods on a Ford, it's really not that great as of March 2025. Keep in mind though, lease programs, interest rates, incentives, all of these things, they do change every month, and all of AutoCompanion's resources, they do update every month as well. And of course, the manufacturer website will also update every month. But with Ford, as of right now, March 2025, there are no incentivized interest rates for the finance, and the lease programs are awful as well. I mean, you're going to be paying upwards of $900 a month for an Explorer ST line, which is almost double what a CX-90 is going to lease out for. And there aren't any low interest rate or 0% financing available. So best case scenario, you're going to have to get your own financing through a quality credit union like PenFed perhaps, where you're going to be paying about 5% in interest. And you can also go to websites like JD Power to see what the invoice price is for new vehicles. On a Ford Explorer, there seems to be about an $1,800 delta between MSRP and invoice. So that's about 3% off the MSRP. That's a good starting point for negotiating, but obviously you're going to want to go to websites like Car Gurus and see, which Ford Explorer has been sitting on the lot the longest and try to get one under invoice. That would be ideal. And when you're negotiating, always make sure to reach out to the general manager of the dealership that you're interested in working with, find their email, and email them all of the final numbers that you are willing to pay. Once the general manager agrees, then and only then should you go inside of the dealership to test drive and sign papers. And the reason why I bring up so many different buying methods is so you, the consumer, can be aware of all of your various options. And let's be honest, with new vehicles, the reliability, it's always going to be a question mark. And also you want to protect yourself against any ridiculous negative equity. And that's why I'm always a fan of taking advantage of low interest rate leases when they are available to us, like what Mazda has to offer. And the other thing is Mazda, it's not going to quite have the same level of resale value as something like a Honda or a Toyota product. So the low interest rate leases, that helps. And the protection from negative equity, that's also huge. So it's sad to see that Ford doesn't have a good quality lease program as of right now. Of course, that can change in the future. So once again, the best thing that you can do is shop around for a good finance rate or even pay cash if you're able to. And if you want to keep the Ford products long term, look into a extended warranty as well that is prorated. Same thing with the Mazda. You know, these are highly complex vehicles. Mazda's got that 48 volt mild hybrid technology. So if that is something that you want to keep long term with both vehicles, really any new vehicle that you're shopping for, you're going to want to research a good quality warranty program. Sometimes the manufacturer themselves can sell you one after the warranty on your current vehicle expires. That's why it's always good to have a quality dealership nearby so that you can talk to them and you can inquire about such services. I've also heard good things about the Fidelity warranty along with Route 66, Freedom, and Portfolio. These all seem to be other warranty companies to take into consideration as well. Hopefully all of these resources and information helped you out. If it did, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching this video. Take care and goodbye.